They call him the doubter, but they never call him what he really was. He was the one who stayed when hope became dangerous. By the time they said Jesus was alive again, Thomas had already buried too much to clap at rumors. He had watched certainty die once, and it didn't come back the way people promised it would. I try to imagine where he was when everyone else saw something, because he wasn't in the room. And that matters more than people admit. Most doubt doesn't come from rebellion. It comes from absence, from missing the moment where belief was supposed to take root. Thomas followed Jesus through dust and hunger, through towns that didn't want them, and nights where the future felt thin. He heard the words, but he also saw the fear behind them. He knew how this story ended, because stories like this always did. That's why, when Jesus talked about going somewhere dangerous, Thomas was the one who said, "Then let us go and die with him." People forget that part. He wasn't faithless. He was honest about the cost. And then the cost came. Hope was arrested. Truth was mocked. The body that carried all that meaning was torn open and lifted, where everyone could see what happens to people who threaten order. If you've ever watched something you believed in get destroyed slowly, publicly, deliberately, you understand Thomas better than you think. After that, words didn't work the same. Promises sounded thinner. Joy felt suspicious. So when they said Jesus was alive, Thomas didn't shout. He didn't argue. He didn't storm out. He just said, "Unless I see it, unless I touch it, I can't." Not won't. Can't. That's not defiance. That's damage speaking. We act like belief is a switch you flip, but belief is a body thing. It remembers. Thomas's body remembered nails. It remembered fear. It remembered how hope feels right before it collapses. I think about him every time someone tells me doubt is weakness, as if the people who question are the ones who haven't bled. The others had their moment. They saw Jesus and built certainty on that encounter. Thomas didn't get that luxury. He arrived late to joy, and joy had already organized itself without him. If you've ever walked into a room where everyone else seems healed, convinced, settled, and you're still carrying questions that feel too heavy to set down, you've been Thomas. And here's the part that matters most to me. Thomas didn't leave. He didn't fake belief to belong. He didn't burn the whole thing down. He stayed close enough to be proven wrong. That takes more courage than certainty ever will. 8 days later, they were together again. Same walls, same locked doors, same fear humming underneath everything. And this time, Jesus came back not for the faithful ones who already believed, but for the one who couldn't. No announcement, no spotlight, no rebuke, just presence. Jesus didn't say, "Why did you doubt?" He didn't say, "You should have trusted me." He said, "Here. Here are the wounds. Here is the cost you already know is real. Here is the proof that belief doesn't erase damage. It carries it." Thomas didn't argue then. He didn't need to, because what he needed wasn't a miracle. It was honesty, a God who didn't hide his scars. That's the version of Jesus I can stay in the room with. Not the polished one, not the untouchable one, the one who doesn't shame doubt, but meets it with open hands. People say Thomas believed because he touched the wounds. I think he believed because Jesus didn't pull away, because Jesus didn't rush him, didn't force a conclusion, didn't punish him for being careful with his heart. There's something deeply human about needing to see where it hurt. We live in a world that demands instant belief, instant opinions, instant loyalty, instant certainty. But Thomas reminds us that some people need time because they've already paid too much. I think about modern Thomas a lot. He's the one who sits quietly while everyone else sings, the one who scrolls past certainty and stops at questions, the one who still shows up even though belief hasn't made sense for a long time. He's not loud. He's not hostile. He's just careful. And maybe careful isn't the enemy of faith. Maybe it's the soil. Jesus didn't say, "Blessed are those who never doubt." He said, "Blessed are those who haven't seen and still believe." But notice something. He didn't say that to Thomas. He said it around him. Thomas had already done the harder thing. He stayed long enough to be met where he was. If belief were easy, it wouldn't need wounds. If faith were cheap, it wouldn't require waiting. I don't think Thomas wanted proof so he could argue less. I think he wanted proof so he could risk hope again. Because hope is the most dangerous thing we ever pick up after loss. To hope again is to say, "This might hurt me." And Thomas was brave enough to admit that out loud. So when people call him the doubter, I hear something else. I hear the one who refused to lie, the one who didn't pretend healing happened faster than it did, the one who demanded a faith strong enough to survive touch. If Jesus can handle Thomas, he can handle us, our questions, our pauses, our scars. Maybe faith doesn't begin with belief at all. Maybe it begins when we stop running from what hurt us and stay long enough for truth to show its hands. Thomas didn't fall at Jesus' feet because he was convinced. He fell because he was finally safe. Safe to believe. Safe to doubt. Safe to stay. And maybe that's the quiet invitation still echoing now. Not to be certain, not to be loud, not to be impressive, just to remain.